Right, a very warm welcome back. And just before the break, we're out in the Eastern Cape in one local municipality of Makana, and some of the challenges that they're facing there, and businesses being affected by poor maintenance and a number of concerns that they raise with budget issues and budget constraints. And we also heard earlier that perhaps sometimes prioritizing the revenues that are coming in are causing some of these concerns. Let's get some quick comments from our panelists here, starting with the CEO of SALGA. Makana is not unique. Some of these issues keep coming up. We talk often about service delivery, 91% people connected to this, that, and the other. But if they're not being maintained, it's a problem.
Peter, I mentioned earlier on two factors, structural and systemic. Now, the example of Makana is one of the systemic issues that you have historical cases, 100 years, aging infrastructure. It's not new. It's many other municipalities. The second area, most of our municipalities, today we're sitting at about 94 billion rand that is owed to municipalities, and it deals with all customer composition. So it also acts as a pull factor in terms of municipalities maintaining infrastructure and so on. So there is a number of measures that as SALGA we take representation of municipalities to the budget forum, but I think an intervention like that is quite important because it seeks stabilization. So structural issues, systemic issues need to be attacked consistently to bring back sustainability of municipalities.
All right, quick comments on what you've seen?
Well,
Yeah.
Peter, well, again, the issue is about maintenance there. And I think it's one thing that really we need to share with our municipal managers. You see, Peter, if you have a vehicle, you estimate that vehicle will last you for the next 5 years. At least you need to put certain amount of money to maintain that car. Because if you don't do that, it will collapse. When it has collapsed, you won't be able to repair it. You may have to buy a new one. And when you look back, you've actually wasted 5%, and that's what we usually say when we start to budget for the following financial year starting in July. At least 5% of your capital budget, put it aside. And we understand and appreciate the fact that there are so much delivery needs out there, and at some stage we get tempted, to throw everything there. But the problem is now you have leaking pipes, you've got potholes, you've got sewage system which actually not maintained, they clog, you have got sewer running around the streets in town. It's because of that budget which we are not putting aside. I think it's very critical. It's part of those 4 pillars.
So it's financial management essentially.
Exactly.
Okay, so Trevor, why do we have people doing it badly? Is it because they can't, or they're just intransigent, they just don't want to bother?
Well, I think the challenges facing different municipalities are different, and I think there's a need for this differentiated approach, because a municipality like Johannesburg collects 85% of its revenue, while a smaller municipality would depend much more on the state for resources. And it's really that kind of balance that we need to try to find. How do we differentiate, ensure that we look at the issues of aging infrastructure and support those municipalities that have aging infrastructure that are very old? And then the question of maintenance, I think, has been addressed adequately by Mr. Mbatha.
But I think if I may just come in, there are 2 reasons things do not take place in local government. Yeah. One, it's simply because of capacity, and I think that's why we're working with SALGA to capacitate people at all levels. But there are cases where people don't do work simply because they don't want to do work, and that's what Advocate Mbatha refers to as consequence management. And I think as local government practitioners, that's why we need to come in and deal with those people in a very unforgiving way, because their intransigence actually is arresting or delaying development to people who need it very much.
Okay. Xolile, this is 20 years down the line. There's nothing that I've heard today that wasn't a problem 20 years ago. And you're saying all the right things, but how can we believe that this is going to translate into anything? And in 2 years' time, we're going to the polls and we're going to tell you what we think. So my question to you is, Why has it taken 20 years to be professionalizing municipal managers? We should have done that years ago, surely.
Well, I agree with you, Peter, in terms of one issue as we go forward is to deal with the accountability and consequence deficit. It is there. So the measurement of bringing accountability is one of the areas that at the level of the administration, there has to be decisive actions, minimum non-negotiables, and the minister has really emphasized this issue. There has to be issues that must happen, basic provision of services, and when there's incidents of wrongdoing, decisive action must be taken. And that's how we can begin to claw back confidence around this matter. Capacity building is an ongoing issue. It doesn't mean that we are talking about capacity now. For the last 14 years, we have been at the forefront of building institutional capacity at local government, and we have seen consistent positive correlation of that. You look at the 5 instruments that were released in terms of Section 71 reports, expenditure on conditional grants. All our municipalities, without exception, have spent on an average 79% and the highest being 96%. Contrast that with 5 years ago. They were starting on a low base of 49%. So that shows you that it's beginning to deliver dividends in terms of the investment of capacity and translation of results. But dealing with consequence accountability cannot wait any longer because we're running short of that deficit as South Africans, and it is justified. There must be consequences.
All right, I'm going to ask again about this interference thing. Do you get phone calls from your political leaders sometimes telling you to do one thing that you know you shouldn't be doing, and then you're caught between a rock and a hard place?
Well, we live in a...
Well, let me attempt that. Peter, remember when I spoke about leadership? Municipal managers are appointed by council. They are appointed by politicians. It's very important that we were able to close that gap. We must communicate. Yes, you do get phone calls, but the issue is how do you manage that? You must be in a position and be sound and be matured and be sober. And say, Mr. or Miss Politician, these are the processes. These are how things are being done. It goes back, Peter, to that question, and I really need to answer that question of people being deployed in positions. It's very important we deal with it once and for all. Section 56 managers, we call them that because they are creatures of that statute being the Systems Act. Basically, it says a manager who accounts to the municipal manager shall be appointed by council after consulting with the municipal manager. So who appoint that person is a politician. But the municipal manager is there to give advice to that politician to say, let's look at the issues of skills, let's look at the issues of qualifications. I don't think this is the correct candidate.
But Trevor, can you keep your job if you say no?
Well, I think the key question is that there's a balance between your ethics and what is required from you by law. And if there's a threat of losing your job, I think the choice is about ethics and following the law. And I think the key issue that we must address, it is not just calls to politicians, but also the business ethics that allows for this to happen. In Johannesburg, we found collusion between certain businesses and not politicians, but people who work within the municipality to try to avoid paying for their services. And over 18 people have been arrested around that question. So it's not just one issue. It's an ethics issue in our society that we have to address.
All right, let's go back to our tables. Fikile Bili, table 12. If you could stand up, we'll get a microphone to you.
I don't approve of the panel because it doesn't represent women. And I believe I'll get support to that effect. To the lady from ESCOM, you need to Google Operation Badala in order for you to see how to collect the revenue from municipalities. That goes to you municipal managers also. I want to say to municipal managers, you are professionals. You are learned men and women. Don't take mandates that are going to compromise your qualification, your families, and your reputation. I've heard ESCOM make mention of 3 provinces. I strongly believe that Mpumalanga will recover. But as for Gaza and Syria, I'm not sure. But to you municipal managers and to Mr. Xolile, George and your panel, I strongly believe whatever you are doing currently in this country, it's positive. The only thing that we need to do away with is to give our municipal managers wrong mandates. Those wrong mandates are going to cost the country its reputation. It's going to cost the country its economy. Let's go back to basics. Let's visit our people and listen to the problems that our people are facing on a daily basis. I'm a revenue enhancement specialist. I deal with municipalities. I see the political mandate. I've lost a municipal manager in one of the provinces because of he appointed me to collect revenue, simply because of he did not get a mandate. Today that man is unemployed. He's got a family, he's got a car, he's got children. He doesn't have an income. He called me yesterday, I don't have an income because I appointed you, but I collected more than 10 million for them per month, simply because I did a data cleansing and I discovered that 17,000 accounts were not billed since 2004. When I took this report and say these accounts are not billed, but they had arrangements on the system, the people who've got arrangements don't pay at the municipality, they pay at the municipal employees. Sure. Those things needs to be put out there. I gave the DG that report. I even gave that premier in question that report. But the municipal manager was asked to walk simply because he did not follow the mandate. I want to say to you municipal managers, you are professionals. Don't allow your careers and your future to be compromised by people who don't have ethics. This South Africa belongs to all of us. Our children are going to be leaders of these municipalities. Let's put systems in place. Let's make sure that when our children come and lead this country, they should not ask us, Dad, you are a mayor and municipal manager, what did you do? They should say, this democracy has put things into place. All I want to say to Mr. George and your panel, you are doing a brilliant job. And I want to ask the current new minister of COGTA, please do a qualification audit in municipalities. We are not going to allow municipal managers who are learned, who are going to be overlooked. You cannot have a municipal manager delivering, whereas you give him a mandate to appoint an unqualified director. You understand? You cannot appoint an unqualified person just because you get a mandate. We are not going to work with a mandate in this country. We are going for skills, qualifications, and capacity. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. I think generally when we ask the other questions, you can comment on that, but I think a very powerful statement that's kind of speaking more and more to some of the issues that we've raised already. Table 5 will find Martin Kubeka. Table 5, Martin. All right, if you can be quite brief with your question.
Yeah, no preamble, Peter, and thank you. You see, the issue here is your rural municipalities. I'm talking around the issue of recruitment and retention, making particular reference, Peter, to this issue of upper limits for senior managers, your Section 56 managers, directors, and municipal managers. In terms of the formula in place for this upper limits approach, I'm wondering, when you look at rural municipalities, conspicuously, of course, those are low-grade municipalities, how are you going to really attract and at the same time retain qualified, skilled, and relevant, incumbents? I'm talking about engineers, your accountants, and so on. And those are the people that are needed most in those areas, because of late, of course, we're vibrating towards this rural development, corner in that respect. What is it? Because in terms of this formula, what will be on the table? It will be peanuts. And the last time I checked, with peanuts, you attract monkeys. Okay. And please, rural development skills. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much indeed. A quick response, because salaries, really, at the end of the day, private sector will offer somebody skilled, an accountant, X, Y, Z, and a district municipality or a small municipality can't compete. How do we fix this, gentlemen? Very briefly, because I want to show another insert.
Peter, as a forum, we
In fact, can I ask you, because you're really, I guess, I won't say that, but you're the smallest of the food chains.
No, sure.
How do you get people to stay and with these limits that you have in terms of upper scales, etc., on pay?
Look, Peter, I think the upper limit is one of the most unfortunate legislations to come out of COCTA. And in one's other capacity as IGM, we've actually challenged the national minister in that regard. It reverses every gains that have been made by local government, because what it says is that the far-flung municipalities, the rural municipalities, cannot attract people, because what makes you go and stay in a municipality in Kakamas and pay very little when you can actually go in an urban area where your kids can go to private schools and you can go to private medical assistance at a much better salary. It is very unfortunate, and we are hoping that the minister will actually review that. It's not assisting local government, it's actually reversing every gains that we've made.
All right, okay. Some resonance with that particular comment from people here. But let's take our final journey to another area in South Africa. And this is a little place called Maltino. And I know somebody from there who used to phone on radio all the time. Let's go to Maltino.
Eastern Cape or Western Cape?
I don't know.
A community united, demanding service delivery. Farmers, farm workers, business owners and residents say the situation is unbearable. Some municipal workers have not been paid for 5 months. Sewage spills are a regular occurrence, and water and power supply is irregular.
We are in the streets today to demand the invokement of Section 139(1)(c) because of service delivery, corruption, maladministration, and other matters.
This isn't a problem just for the blacks or just for the white people of this town. Together we came together as a whole community, black and white. We support each other. We threw our resources together, and I'm very proud on this community today.
The provincial government wants to step in.
There is a resistance because, in actual fact, instead of implementing the resolutions of the Kabuso report, they decided to go to court. The department, in actual fact, has no other way but also to go to court, because the aim of this government is to ensure clean administration.
Mayor of Ngwangca, Tandazo Kamgwana, says there is no need to place the municipality under administration.
Maltino residents say they are giving local government MEC Fikile Xasa 5 days to take over this municipality. Failure to do that will see them back in the streets again. Unatipin was SABC News, Maltino.
Okay, so that's another area, Maltino. We're going to go to our tables very quickly now, but I do get a sense coming through as well that those that are struggling are becoming defensive of their positions. How do we manage that? Because they clearly need help, and perhaps they don't know that they need help, but they're being defensive and starting to claim political interference, all sorts of manner of things. Xolile?
A number of our municipalities, Peter, are delivering services. But if you analyze the phenomena on some of the protests, there are 2 factors at play. It's either responsibilities that do not directly lie with local government. And the top 4 ranked causes of protests, it's either housing or areas where there's demand for social infrastructure, schools or hospitals, or even people will protest for a police station but ban a municipal library. The third area is structural issues that I raise, inability to raise revenue. But I think much as we see these 3 examples you have, genuine cases where people, because of a municipality failing to respond, that's what we call responsiveness. People might have raised issues with the municipality, and the municipality has not responded, or the municipality has responded by referring it to the right authority. But the second scenario is factors at play. There are people who would march to a municipality and demand nothing else other than dissolution of the municipality. And when you look at the factors beyond that, it's other factors that I've mentioned earlier on, external factors that are either interplay politically and so on. So there's a fair amount of justified reasons the municipality must respond, but there's a lot of structural issues that will not be immediate solution until we deal with the sustainability question of municipalities.
Hugh, have we not taught people to march? Because it seems as when they march, that's when things start to happen. And we're seeing more and more marches taking place. And is this why we're seeing this acceleration of professionalizing and trying to fix things and so on and so forth? And the minister threatening to fire people?
Yeah, well, Peter, us professionalizing the sector, trying to do certain things right, can never stop or it should not even stop our people from marching. Remember, our people are exercising their constitutional right, anyway, to demonstrate. But what is very critical in those rights, which are especially enshrined in the Constitution, is that they can be limited. I think that we must upfront indicate. I don't have a problem with communities when they march. Let them express their anger peacefully. But as soon as they ban a library, then there is a serious problem because they're now being malicious, damaging that particular property, and there will obviously be the criminal justice implications coming in. Yes, those marches are a reflection of certain things that are not happening in municipalities. Xolile was indicating also that yes, in as much as there are certain things, we're trying to sort them out, and we will sort them out as time goes on. But there are also certain things that we got right in the municipalities.
All right, Trevor, quick comment?
Yes, I think the one issue, given the unemployment in our country, one of the key things we'd want to look at is ensuring that people are involved in the service delivery. In Johannesburg, we're launching a Josie at Work program, which draws on people's assets to ensure that they are part of the delivery of the services, so that we create the kind of entities and create jobs in delivering services. So instead of us picking up waste, getting people in the community to pick up the waste at the local area and then taking it to an assembly area. That's the kind of thing which will also proactively assist us in addressing this question of service delivery protest.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to get 4 people to ask questions one after the other, and then we'll get some quick comments on what we've heard. And we'll start with Johan Mettler on table 15. Johan Mettler, if you can be very brief with your question, and if you can make a note of what's being said.
Thank you. What should be the main focus of Minister Gordon in relation to municipalities? And secondly, what are the most significant successes of local government in this democratic era?
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Mpilo Mbambisa, you're on table 14. Mpilo.
My question was around electrification. Electricity is becoming unaffordable, not only for ordinary citizens, but also for businesses, especially in the metros. And I thought that Eskom, because we read that Eskom is planning to increase the tariffs between 10 and 13% in the coming year. And this puts enormous pressure to municipalities. And one is looking really for advices in terms of what can be done to make electricity affordable, both for citizens and also to be able to retain those businesses that are in our metros.
Okay, and Luvuyo, is that Mahlaga? Table 13, Luvuyo.
No, thanks, Program Director. My question is directed to Mr. Nkosi. Mr. Nkosi, would you be kind to just share with this briefing what is it that you did as council best in Msunduzi? We read about negative stories in the recent past, but also there is serious stability and service to our people. I think those are best practices we want to share with the country. What is it that you have done as the council to change the situation around? Thank you.
Okay, and the last one, P.T. Williams, table 15. And then it can comment on
Good morning. Peter, my question is about shared services. everybody in the House would know that not all municipalities do have equal resources and in-house capacity. So I wanted to hear from the gentlemen, the panel, whether they think that, you know, the way how we could, like, you know, address and overcome in building the capacity within municipalities. Do you think that the concept of sharing services, municipalities in a neighboring area, could say, and how we could, like, address it as a going forward?
Okay, all right. Let's address those questions as you see fit. Let's start with you, Xolile.
Well, the question around what are some of the significant gains made by local government. Local government, in terms of its democratic form, is now 14 years. It has been successful in extending basic services to the previously unserviced areas, because we now have what we call wall-to-wall municipalities. So that's a very significant intervention around bringing back dignity for people. The second part is to bring the element of democratic representation. People can elect Peter as a ward councillor. They know the face of Peter. They can also fall on accountability on Peter. So no community could say in our country with 4,860 wards, no one is not enjoying democratic representation. So all we need to do is to strengthen that bond. People to expect their elected representative to account to them, and their expected representative to be responsive to their needs and respond honestly and genuinely. The second part, what are the priorities of Minister Gordhan? Our minister has clearly made a statement around expecting nothing else but all municipalities having what we call back to basic, providing essential set of services, responding appropriately to needs of citizens, and acting decisively to areas of corruption and maladministration. If we do that, I think we'll claw back significant areas of erosion of confidence that we have.
Okay. Other questions that were raised, affordability, what do you want to address?
Well, I think the key question around shared services, I think is a very important issue. Certainly at the local municipalities could benefit from shared service from the district municipalities, because certainly that's the way the metro works. It shares services across the metro and across the entities that it may have. So you may have a IT service at the center that then supplies all of the local municipalities, as we do in metros, where we have entities that get a shared service in relation to IT, in relation to even fleet management. Those are the kinds of things that give you economies of scale, but also give you the kind of professionalism that you may not be able to achieve at a small level.
All right, so I'm going to ask you about Msunduzi specifically, but perhaps, are you finding the same challenge in terms of electricity affordability? I mean, NERSA does the job of hearing both sides of the equation and coming up with a ruling that this is fair. So, you know, we haven't been paying enough for electricity, my understanding, when we compare to the rest of the world. We're only just playing catch-up at the moment, and we're still below the bar. How do you address that from a municipal point of view? Because that's a concern that's been raised there.
Well, you see, the whole issue of ESCOM, well, we have our problems, of course, as a district. Tabachweo, I can't remember how much Tabachweo owes ESCOM, but you see, each time we have ESCOM tariff hikes, on one hand, I think it's also incumbent also on us. Remember the whole idea of growing our economies. The more hikes we have, the more unemployment rate goes up. Then we need to, at some stage, to be able to strike a balance, because ultimately you're basically saying those who are outside employment, clearly they won't be able to pay for electricity. And they will look at these hikes as being very expensive, unaffordable, and so on and so on. That also goes back to the municipality to say, how do we mitigate the situation?
Unfortunately, we're running out of time, but I'm getting a gist of how to address this. Msunduzi, very quickly, literally have about 30 seconds to answer that question.
Thank you. I think in the main, it's very strange, and I would like to thank the administrators that came before us. The turnaround from Msunduzi was built around the 4 priorities, and they came from a politician, Nochal. It was service delivery, professionalization, compliance, and revenue generation. And that's what we've worked around. And we've moved from a deficit of 521 million to the investment register as of today of more than 977 million. We are catching a billion. We've moved from a capital infrastructure investment of 100 billion. This year it's 621 million.
Unfortunately, we ran out of time, sadly, but I think if they can come to your website or something, you can perhaps put a blueprint for other municipalities to follow. But thank you very much indeed for sharing your thoughts with us. Xolile George, Trevor, Fowler, Hugh, Mbatha, Mxolisi, Nkosi. Thank you so much for joining us, and we wish you the best of luck in your endeavors going forward, because our people certainly need your good work. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. A big hand for them. And I want to thank you at home as well for joining us and sending your questions and your tweets. Have a great weekend, everybody. And let's go to Valen, who's back in Johannesburg to wrap things up for us. For all of us here in Mbombela, have a great day, everybody. Goodbye.
Thank you very much, Peter. And